Hey everyone, it is Larry here at LC Model Shipbuilding, and this episode we're going to be working on putting the engine together for our 1/8 scale Revell Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am build. So this episode, kind of goes through that whole process. We don't 100% get the engine done, and that's okay. I'm trying to get the video to a decent length, but the next episode I can tell you will be revisiting part of the first episode. We're going to actually make the suspension work on the front, so we're going to put real springs on it, and then we're going to finish up some of the hoses and wiring that we got going on at the engine on at the end of this video. So thank you very much for tuning in. I do want to mention this is a sponsor build, so this is one of two Trans Am builds that we're going to be doing. So the first is a 6.6 liter and the next one is a 4.9 turbo, but we're using the kit made by Cameron over at Cameron's Model Works and sold by Gene Davis on the 1/8 scale Facebook page. Cameron and then Jason have been amazing in what they have done for all of the research with the parts and making them work, and all the different versions that we've gone through, because we've been chatting a lot, and what is working, what's not working, and doing adjustments as we go. So definitely want to give them a shout out, and I will put links to both their Facebook pages as well as the Trans Am page in the description here. So I also wore my Only Pontiac shirt, so I'm a avid Fiero owner, but I know that's not quite the same as a Trans Am. But anyway, let's get started, and here we go. Okay, so here we go with the engine and transmission combo. We're working on doing a manual conversion for future here. I'll be doing a build with a manual down the road, but we are going to run the factory supplied transmission setup on this build. So here we go. It appears from looking at the movie, there was both manual and automatics that were used, so either way is actually correct. But if you watch the movie, you definitely will hear manual shifting happening. So first part obviously is going to be gluing the halves together. We're going to let them sit, and then we're going to paint our engine and transmission assemblies. So how I will end up doing that once we get this set and dried, I will end up using some of my little holders, and I'll put a piece of metal or something in here just to kind of hold it, and basically do one of these. That's not the piece I'm using, but just showing for example. So I'm going to let that dry up. I'm going to do a little bit of sanding along the seam line here, and then we'll start painting. So we're going to use Pontiac engine blue, and then for the transmission I'm actually going to use this Pontiac wheel charcoal because it's close to the metal that it would have been. It's kind of got an aluminum look to it, so this should look fine. And I don't want to go too light, because if you go too light with the transmission, it just looks unnatural, and I want to have a little bit of contrast to the catalytic converters and everything else. So that's what we're going to use. But let me get ready to paint these, and after I get them painted up, we'll be back. Okay, so we did our paint work on the transmission, and as you can see, I sealed in the seam line, sealed it in on the oil pan. Now this all goes blue, so we're going to go ahead and glue down our intake, our heads, all that good stuff, and then we'll paint our block blue, and our oil pan and everything basically that goes there. So this is actually the paint that I'm going to go with. I kind of made my own mix after showing what I was showing there. Talked to the owner of the build, and this is more of the color he was looking for, so that's what we're going for. And it is a custom mix, so a little bit of blue in there, a little bit of green, and white. So that's basically how it's made, but it was just matching up a color. So let me get the pieces that go on this block ready, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now we got our pieces here. That these all end up becoming blue. I already have the transmission, as you can see, covered, so we don't end up painting that. But we're going to go ahead and put our pieces on before we paint blue, since these are all the same color. And I might have to, well, no, not that I might have to, I do have to cut out this little section here for the intake to kind of go around, and then I'll re-tape off that. So on this intake, just want to double check here, I think it actually fits under. Nope, it fits over, okay. So it just sits right over top of that. Then our heads go on like that. Just sizing it up a minute. Timing chain cover goes there. Okay, so that makes more sense. Yeah. So I'm going to work on real quick. I don't like the little bit of flashing going on right there, so I'm going to clean that up and then make sure I get everything sized, and then I'll be right back. We'll glue it together then. Okay, so the timing chain cover is glued on already at this point, and good. Now the intake, it does have goofy little holes back here in the back, so I'm hoping something ends up covering that, because it's kind of weird, but you'll see when I get it on here. But it is correct. I just double verified it to the directions. So that is how it's supposed to sit. Right like that. Just seems very strange. But that is exactly what it's showing on the instructions here. It's supposed to overhang just slightly. So I guess we're going to go with that. And our head, one rides there. Oh, I guess it does kind of cover most of it. Okay, so let's glue that on. And a little bit of glue on the bottom of the intake here. There we go. And same thing over here. Okay, so There we go. Cylinder heads are on, intake is on, and timing chain cover is on. So from here we can go ahead and paint our block and keep rolling. So we'll do some detail work and stuff like that with the bolts that hold the heads on, so our head bolts and our intake bolts and all of that good stuff once this kind of dries and sets up after the paint. So let me go ahead and pause it, and we'll come back. We'll probably start the we'll start doing the starter and the accessories while this is drying once we get rolling here. So I will be right back. Okay, so here's our engine painted up. Gonna let this dry for a little while, and in the meantime I'm gonna start working on our starter, which is right here. So piece number 40. Again, you can see the amount of flash on this thing, so we're gonna have to do some sanding and get that cleaned up and ready to go. But this will get painted in black and silver and a little bit of gold on the front, much like a typical starter would be. So this is going to take some taping off, and we'll be right back. Okay, so got the blue painted, obviously, and just got the oil filter painted white, so that's done. And now what I'm doing is just doing some bolt heads and little touch-up paint, but little detail painting that needs to happen on this engine throughout, basically, because there's just little spots all over the place that need to have details kind of brought out on it. So right now that's what this is all about. I just did the spark plugs over here. You can kind of see them. They have the silver on the bottom and then a little bit on the top. I am going to have plug wires on them, so there is the potential that you'd be able to see the very base of it. So I want to make sure that you could see the white and the silver like you should be able to. You know, like I said, I'm just going through and doing all these bolt holes or bolt heads right now. And there's a ton of little things throughout the entire engine that are going to need this type of detail work. Just fitting ends and all kinds of just little detail work to be done. So we're going to work on that here a little bit, and then once I get that pretty much done, we'll go on to the belt drive, and we'll start to paint the belts up and do some decal work. There's some decals that need to go on, I don't know, things like the AC compressor, the starter, all that sort of fun stuff. So I'll show that, and then after that it'll be pretty much time to put the belt drive on and really just start assembling the entire engine at this point. So I'm liking how it's coming. It's definitely coming out nice. I'm gonna paint the spark plugs on this side quick, and really to do that, nothing real difficult. I painted the white, obviously, you can see, and then we're just going to kind of come along the bottom here with a little bit of the silver. I might have to touch up a tiny bit of the blue. I'm not as worried about getting the top of the plug up here, because I don't think there's any way you'd ever see that, but I know the bottom could potentially. So we'll get that. Just make sure everything kind of has that look of a real car. And then there's little decals for the oil filter. It has like a Purelator sticker for it, and a lot of little things that we'll kind of go through when we do that part. Okay, so there's that. The head bolts, thinking I'm gonna maybe do them black. I still gotta paint the valve covers yet to get them ready. Surprised the intake doesn't actually have bolts. You know, I think I'm actually going to just do the head bolts as silver too, because really from the factory, pretty much all bolts are that iron type look, unless, you know, you have the aftermarket ones, which would be ARPs, and then they are black, but we're gonna say that this is basically a factory car. So I'm going to pause it here and go ahead and get all the rest of this painted up, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I did a quick modification, which I didn't show in the video. I should have. So this is a piece of styrene. I cut it basically rough cut to the size of the hole that the oil filter would go into. Glued a bolt in there, a small 3mm bolt, and a nut on that side, which now will enable us to screw our oil filter on. So, kind of a little add-on that I don't know if you'll ever really be able to do it, but you can. So there we go. So next up, waiting for this to dry, I just clear coated that with some flat coat, and then you can see I got all my pieces pretty much assembled here. One thing I also did not show yet were my carburetors. So this is I 3D printed this myself, and I will be putting these up for sale if anybody's interested. I do have about, what, 12 of them available right now, and yeah, more than happy to ship them out. I'll price them probably, I don't know, $5-10 bucks, somewhere in that neighborhood, plus shipping. So the detail's pretty good on it. It's a Holley 1050 double pumper, so went with the gold on there, and that's what it looks like. So I'm liking that. I'm probably going to drill this out, put a stem in there so that the air cleaner can actually get mounted like it would in real life. I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. I haven't gotten that far yet, but we'll see. So anyway, I just thought I'd show that, and yeah, there they are, or there that is. Other things that we've done, starters detailed out, so you can see we got the gold on the front, we got our silver on the back, we got our little bolts there, and then I got my solenoid right up here. I'll probably run some wires on that just to make it look more realistic. We got the alternator. I still got to paint the fan here. I'll do that black, but that's pretty much the front of the alternator. There's the back of it, and we'll do some detailing on that yet to go before we do final assembly. We got our fan. That's looking pretty good. I like that. And then our fan clutch, which is right here. That was originally chrome. Stripped that off. So is the alternator also, but I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the chrome. And then we got our pulleys and our belt. So the belt is done in NATO black, and then the pulleys obviously are gloss black, and the same over here. So there they are. They came out nice. I like them. We got our AC compressor here ready to go. Bolts are already painted. There's some decals that will go on this, so I'll put them on here probably in the next segment. And then this would be our power steering reservoir and cap. So there we go. that essentially is all of our parts that are going to go on this. I do still got to strip these and paint these. I got to decide if I'm going black with them or if I'm going to go with the blue, but I'm leaning towards probably black, as the photos I've seen of the movie car did have black valve covers. So that's where we're at, and we'll continue moving I just shot the part for the video, but I figured I'd show you in person here, or not in person, but get a sneak peek. So it screws on or off and screws right back on. So hopefully that is what you were looking at or looking for, and we made it happen. So there you go. I gotta fix that. I know, I'm not real happy with it, but anyway. Okay, so while we wait for some stuff to dry, I'm gonna work on putting some of these engine decal pieces on. So we have the starter decal there. There's a cap for the power steering pump, oil filter, and a couple other miscellaneous ones. Now, the rest of this decal kit I am not gonna end up using because most of it is quite inaccurate. I mean, for one, we don't have the right state for the plate. We don't have the right plate for the front. It should be kind of like a Confederate flag, all that good stuff. Or bad stuff, however, whatever, you know what I mean. But the gauges, from what I understand, are inaccurate. So we're going to pretty much scrap the rest of this, but we are going to use some of this stuff right in here. So I'm going to get some water and some decal set, and we're going to go ahead and put our decals on here. I'm waiting for the valve covers to dry right now. I did end up going with the blue for them as well, and I had to paint up the other pulley that I didn't do in the last segment. So we're going to work on putting that stuff together, and then we'll start some pre-assembly before we do the full engine. So let me get some water and decal set. Okay, so our first one that we're going to do is the AC compressor, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the side here. Goes that direction. Yes, okay, sorry, I had to make sure I was going the right direction with it. So a little bit of decal set. And I'm going to end up doing a dull coat over these parts anyway, so that will help to kind of set them in. Just want to get it on there nice and straight, and that should pretty much about do it. So the lettering is pretty well pronounced, so you can see, you know, it has the AC Delco and your ratings and all that good stuff. So yeah, there we go, looks good. Next up, there are several that go on the belts. I'm going to hold on them just for a minute because I want to get a couple of the other ones done. We have a strip that goes around the alternator, which is on a different spot here, so I'll grab that in a minute. Decal number 7 goes on top of the power steering, like I said. A little bit more time there on that. There we go. And I'm not actually going to put that on any particular direction because when you tighten the cap down, it doesn't necessarily go to a particular position. Come on. There we go. And we're just going to let that kind of dry on there. That will dissipate some of the decalness. I also generally do that on the part once it's on. Okay, next up, skipping the belts, we got two for the starter. So decal 11 and 12. And then I just want to make sure I don't have any others. Yes, I do. I got one more. I got the oil filter. I got a couple more to go. So we'll do those real fast and get them knocked out. I do want to find the one for the alternator that I was missing there. So that is decal 67. Okay, so that one's a long one. That's kind of that copper band that goes around an alternator. And I did detail up the alternator already with some black, so I already got that done. And you can see that right here. So this band goes around the outer edge, the outer lip of this. So we'll put that on here in a minute. Okay. So we got the starter. Okay, so now we just got to put some decal set on that one, and those are done. Okay, next up we'll do the alternator real fast. Okay, so that's this piece. I still got to do some detailed bolt heads on here and a couple other little things before we start putting the engine together. So anyway, we're getting there. I guess I'll do the belts next after. Well, no, I'll do the oil filter and the the fuel pump. Then we'll do the belts. There we go. So this one I'm just going to kind of start and work my way around. It does kind of overlap, so be cautious of that when you do this. Okay, that should work. I really considered hand painting that just because the red is not exactly truly accurate color, but that would be really kind of annoying to paint. I guess I could tape it off, but whatever. We got it. We'll do the oil filter next, which is on the engine, which is over drying. So actually we will do not the oil filter next, we'll do the fans next. So decal 38 is on the belt, so that's up here on the sheet again. Okay, and 38 is the AC belt, so that's this guy here. And if you hear the printer going right now, we're doing kind of an experiment to make a manual conversion kit for this car. Not for this build, but this is actually a two-part sponsor build, because we're going to be building this build, which is the NA 400 block, and then we're going to be building, or 455 block, I'm sorry, and then we're going to be doing the 4.9 liter turbo edition in another build. And all of the parts that we're using for this were made and designed by Cameron and Jason on their website, which I will post below, or their Facebook page I'll post below, or both, depending on what I have at the time. And yeah, stop over because the parts are pretty darn good, and you know, there's going to be some modification that has to go with it, but anytime you do any kind of build like this, you're always going to have some modification. So the decals, like I said, I'm not using the kit supplied decals because I'm going to be using Ray's decals, which are way more accurate. Maybe I'll post a picture of them from the website between this segment and the next one, just so you can kind of see them. And yeah, we'll be using his decals. But back to what I was saying, we're working on trying to design a conversion kit to make a manual car. So one of the builds, and I'm going to also be doing my own build, so I'm going to have 3 separate builds of this car going. One of them will be mine personally, and then the other 2 being sponsor builds will be going over to Mr. Gene Davis, and he is the moderator for not moderator and I guess point person for the 3D parts for these builds. So that's a little bit of history or explanation of what's going on in this. And I know we've been working on this project for several months now in the planning phases, and I'm just excited to see us at a point that we're ready to actually be building and doing this part of it, because this is the part that I enjoy the most, is actually building. I don't do a whole heck of a lot of designing, but I do some stuff with 3D print. Like the carburetor I showed earlier, I reformatted that, but that, yeah, it's just basically a carburetor. These guys do front ends and, you know, full-on conversion setups and all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure if you haven't checked them out, you check them out, because that's where I'm getting all the parts and goodies that you'll be seeing when it comes to the body in the near future here. This is cool because it has the belt numbers on it. That's a nice touch that a lot of kits really miss, so I like that. And then I'm still going to paint the pulleys a little bit. I'm going to give them a little bit of wear because if you ever look at your pulley on your car, none of them are perfectly shiny black. Once the belt starts running on them, that paint goes away, and yeah, you can basically see metal. So we'll make that a little bit more accurate once we get going here. And one more set of belts. This one has 2 more. Or 3 more. 2 or 3 more. Yep, 3 more. Okay. So I'm gonna grab the engine in a minute. We'll do the I can't talk. We'll do the oil filter and the fuel pump. And that one's this. Alright, I will be right back. Okay, so while I'm waiting for some more stuff to dry, I'm going to start putting together the alternator and kind of show what I'm going to do for a little bit of the wiring, because I started some of it on the engine block, but you can't really see that right now because I'm touching up those parts, or the pan there on the bottom of the transmission. So that is currently drying, but I'll show a little bit of what we're going to do with the alternator, and we'll kind of get that going here. So there we got our alternator, and that then connects to this one like so. So that goes in there. Now I'm not going to glue that yet just because I don't know exactly where it's going to land on the actual engine, so that'll move slightly. But what we're going to do, because it would have a couple wires coming off of it, I don't know how long I need them yet, so we're going to put 2 red, and I'm going to go probably, yeah, the full length of what I got right here, just because I don't know exactly what I need yet. So I already did a wire for the starter. You can see that I got one connecting the 2 solenoids and then a power wire coming down, so that'll all end up getting hid in the engine bay somewhere, so they don't really have to connect to anything, but I kind of want them. So same thing with the wires here for the alternator. I'm going to just use a little bit of CA glue, and this is actually real wire, so it should look pretty convincing. So we're just going to get our CA onto the little nub there where that belongs, and I want to get them close enough that they kind of hug the pin, just like that. And then we're going to just hit it with a little bit of accelerator. And they fall off. That worked well. Okay, that one worked better. So now I got my wires coming off here, and like I said, they will disappear somewhere into the engine bay, and I'll just kind of hide them and mount them into a location once that's determined. Now I already kind of connected our AC. This is also not glued because it will need to move, and we're going to need some hoses coming out of this. So they are going to again be wire, and I have plenty of these lights. These are actually what we're going to be using for headlights down the road, but they will work perfectly fine for what I'm doing here. So I'm going to cut actually this end because it has this nice piece of heat shrink on there. which will kind of give it the look of a connector and make it look a little bit more natural. And then this will actually ride back to the condenser, if the model has a condenser. I didn't even look for that yet, but in any case, it'll work for what I'm doing. So I want to hit that with accelerator too. It just makes life so much easier. I just realized I might not even be, yeah, I guess I am in the screen, sorry. I've been trying to make sure I'm a little bit more conscious of that because watching back into some of the clips here, I see I have not been, so I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious of it, and I apologize. Okay, so there we go, we got one on, and then we're going to want a second one. And we'll do the same exact thing where we kind of cut it from down here. And literally all of the wire I'm going to use is just scrap wire from, most of it's from Titanic, but you know, just stuff I have laying around, so don't go buy special wire for this type of stuff. I mean, at least if you do a lot of weird projects like I do, you shouldn't really need to buy it. That one's stuck pretty much on its own. Gave it a little bit more time. Still gonna hit some accelerator. But these smaller wires that I have here will work for great vacuum lines, so we'll be doing that. Putting some vacuum lines in. And this car has a ton of vacuum lines because we were in the fuel crisis of the 70s and all that good stuff, so they were trying to be emission friendly, sort of, kind of weirdly, I guess you'd say. So anyway, next up we got our power steering reservoir, and this one I can go ahead and glue because it has clear mounting points that I can see, so we'll get that kind of pressed on. Okay, now one other thing I mentioned a little bit earlier, we need to give the pulleys a look of being used, so we're going to do some silver on that, and then I'm even going to do a little bit of dry brushing some rust onto it, but that will be after this dries. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of hit the edge of the pulley with silver. And only where the belt is not. And we'll dirty that up a little bit and, like I said, rust it. Just a little bit though, not anything crazy. Because it wouldn't really have a ton of rust, but when it's running, you would get a little bit of rust on it. I mean, when it's not running, you would get a little bit of rust on it just from natural air conditions. Okay. So I'm going to finish this pulley, then I'll pause it. I'm going to work on continuing to do some wiring, and then I think the next part will actually be the plug wires. We'll start to build them. I'm going to have to touch up the black a little bit on that. But yeah, we'll put the distributor together and get the plug wires built so we can get them onto the spark plugs. Okay. So I will be back. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start doing our assembly on the engine pieces here. So I still do got to build the distributor quick. That might end up being in the next video just because of the length of this one at this point, but we will see. So basically it is just a matter of putting pieces together right now. And getting them straight to where we want. Oh, that rides on there. Okay, now that makes sense. Wasn't making sense for a second. So the manifold rides on the bottom of the actual head, just FYI. Okay, so you can put some along the edge there too. Then it has a crossover pipe that connects as well, so we'll get that here in a second. Okay. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and do the valve covers. Guess we didn't set long enough. But yeah, we'll do the valve covers next. That was my own fault there. Okay, now we should be pretty well set. Okay, so valve covers cap goes on the driver's side, and I did just double check, that was actually a blue cap So everything is literally blue on this. I would have painted it black otherwise, but it's blue. And I will paint the little bolt marks there at some point. I'm only not doing the crossover pipe right now because then the engine will be sitting on that, and I don't know if it'll be crooked. Plus those headers or those manifolds are fresh glue. Also, you can probably see I got a couple hoses and vacuum lines already here, which I'm fighting with one right now. And that I'm just following pictures of the real deal. Okay, now we got our next step, which we kind of already did, was the assembling this and that. Now we got this that goes on here. That's our fan clutch. I might do some scuffing basically to make the fan blades look a little bit weathered too, because they generally do not stay brand new looking for very long at all. Okay, we got those already done. Let me skip our page. Okay, so now it looks like it's time to put everything on. So, first up, we have our AC. And balancer, but that is not going to fit in there. So that hole, you can see that hole on the timing chain is way smaller. I guess it's not supposed to fit, but I know what's going to happen. The next piece is going to go on top of it, and that's what's going to fit through. Yep. Yeah, so we do one of these deals. Okay, so now that will fit into the hole where the harmonic balancer would be. So that goes like that. Okay, and then this one has the fan go through it, and that will hold at the alternator. Not the alternator, the water pump, sorry. Except this seems really short. Just want to see if that fits in there. Okay, it does. No worries. Just seemed a little goofy. So we're gonna put that like that, kind of centering it. Sorry if I'm off camera just a bit here. I'm gonna put some glue on the water pump snout. Then we're going to bring this guy on top of it, just like that, and push it in. So that goes there. Now, I don't like how that hose is fitting, or not that hose, that pulley is fitting down around the balancer. It should be closer. So you can see there's a gap right in here. So we're going to take that off for a minute. just to kind of align things again. And what I think I'm actually going to do is put a touch of CA down here on the balancer. Just to kind of help promote an adhesion. Yes, that's better. Now we just got to get that to move over a tiny bit and put our fan in. And there we go. So that is essentially what we want it to look like. Oh yeah, I'm pretty excited about that actually. Looks really good. Okay, now we need our alternator, which will ride right here. Pretty much just like that. Yep. So let me get some glue on that guy. Okay, so one thing I see, I'm going to have to paint the back of this reservoir. I might even make a backing plate for it because that looks a little goofy. And then this one needs to move up just a touch. So I'm going to hit that with some CA right in there. And then I'll just touch up paint where the glue is on that belt. Okay. That got everything pretty much aligned now. So good. The alternator, that bolt would have connected probably to the water pump, so I'm going to touch that with a tiny bit of glue just to get him aligned. Yes. Oh, our belt down here came off though. Not off, but came unglued. I didn't use much, I just used a touch down here, so we'll use just a tiny bit more this time. And again, I can just hit that belt with some paint for touch-up, and nobody will be the wiser. Except all of you that are watching this. There. Okay, now, next up we have our carb. That will sit right there. And then we're going to have hoses that I'm going to connect on them. And I might actually do all of that running on the next video, just because we're going to put fuel hoses on it, we're going to put some vacuum hoses on it, and then we're just going to have a lot kind of going on. So I think I'm going to hold off on the carb on purpose and probably wrap the video up here at this point. We'll just get this starter attached and pretty much call it a video. So I do appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you very much, and if this is helpful at all or anything like that, please give us a subscribe. Definitely love getting new viewers and welcoming people into the model building community if you are new to it. So essentially that is everything that I'm going to do on this video. I just got to get that alternator straightened up and we'll be good. So there it is. That is our engine. Just kind of show some different angles so you can see. All right, we will see you next time, and thank you very much for watching.